Hey guys, fall officially started this week and I love doing different recipes that are themed. So I'm gonna do a whole week's worth of what's for dinner, but all fall recipes. And I do have a few desserts I'm gonna throw in the end there, but we're gonna get started tonight with dinner number one, and that is a white chicken chili. And yes, if you Google that, there's a million different options. So this one might be different than the one you make. If it's the same, but let me know, I'm not sure. But I'm gonna start it with the white chicken chili. I got out my Dutch oven because it lives in the garage, and the first step is going to be to dice up a medium onion. As with every cooking video I do, all the ingredients, recipes, everything will be in the description box down below. Okay, all right. I like a smaller dice, but again, that's completely up to you. Oh man, ridiculously strong onion is trying to kill me. But heat your pan to about a medium high with 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And add all of the onion. While the onions are cooking in the pan, you're going to need 2 cups of chicken. You can cook your own. You can buy the pre-shredded stuff at the grocery store. However you want to do it, rotisserie chicken, $5 at Sam's. This is what I'm using. I've recruited the husband to help me with the chickens because I don't like dealing with the bones and all that, so he's cutting that. Once the onions are starting to get translucent, that's when you're gonna put in 2 cloves of garlic, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, half a teaspoon of oregano, and 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Cook all this together for 1 minute. Reduced sodium chicken broth, you can always add more salt, but you can't take it away. It's gonna be 3 cups, but I'm gonna start with just a little bit at first to get all the stuff off the bottom. All right, now that I've scraped everything off the bottom, there's the rest of those 2, and 3. 1 can of corn drained. 2 cans of Great Northern beans, rinsed and drained. Can of chopped green chilies. I have the mild for my family and I'm doing 1 can. This is where you can up the heat. They do make a medium and a hot, and you can put up to 2 cans in here. I'm just doing 1 mild. And then 2 cups of the cooked chicken. This is probably more than 2 cups, but I mean, that's the best part of the whole thing, so we're throwing all that in. And paying doggy tax. Get this up to a boil, but just like a low boil. Don't have it going crazy. It is slowly coming to a simmer in there, and it wants the pot to simmer for 10 minutes once you get to that point. I'm just gonna put the lid on to help it out, turn it down to a lower temperature, and let this sit for about 10, maybe even 15 minutes just to develop flavor. The recipe calls for 1/4 cup of fresh cilantro. This is how I store mine. It's just a glass and then a bag over it from the grocery store, and it stays fresh in my fridge the longest that way. I don't know if it's just a coincidence, but either way, nice and green. I did a pretty fine chop on the one going in the soup, and then I have some extra out here still to go on top when we fill up our own bowls. What the recipe at this point wants you to do is take about 3 cups of this out, put it into your blender, blend it down, and then put it back in. Or if you have an immersion blender, which I have one of these, that's what that is, it's an immersion blender. Just do a little bit around the bottom, but not a whole lot because you're not trying to puree the whole thing, just some of it. Okay, I'm gonna call that good on the immersion blender. And then just heat it, especially if you took it out and put it back in, just heat it for about another 2 or 3 minutes. Turn off the heat, add in the fresh cilantro, and then it says 1/2 cup of sour cream, 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup. So I'm just gonna eyeball about 8 tablespoons of this because I don't feel like dirtying a measuring cup. So 6, 7, 8. And then just mix all of this in. A little bit of salt and some pepper. Dinner is served. I have these, I might as well use them. So I'm gonna put my soup in there. Serve up however much you want in your bowl. Top it however you would like. We're using Colby Jack cheese. You can use just straight Jack cheese, pepper Jack cheese if you want to add more heat, but throw some cheese in there. I like sour cream, so I'm putting a little extra of that in my bowl specific. Okay, tearing up a little extra cilantro for over the top of mine. And I like something crunchy, so tortilla chips. Breaking up a few of these and putting them in there. And I get to keep mine warm while I make the kids' plates. I've made many white chicken chili recipes over my life. This one is absolutely amazing. I just wish I would have put some white rice in there like my aunt, how she serves hers, but so good. On to dinner number 2. This one is a Crockpot dinner. I found it off of TikTok. It sounded really good, had millions of views. I've never tried it before, so let's go ahead and give this one a shot. I am going to use a liner. That's your own discretion. Use them, don't use them, buy a silicone one, whatever you wanna do. I'm using a liner for easy cleanup. Take a package of smoked sausage, any kind that you like. I usually do the turkey sausage, and I normally do 2 of them when I do a dish like this, but I'm following exactly what it said. So 1 of these, and you're gonna cut it up. The recipe calls for a normal bag of the hash brown potatoes, the cubes, but not with the peppers and onions. I want more flavor, so does my husband, so we're using the potatoes O'Brien. Whole bag, throw it in there. Throw the whole bag in your crock pot. Sausage is all cut up. It looked like it was just little coin slices. And yes, we always pay doggy tax. 1, 2. 2-cup bag of shredded cheese. So put about half. In here, I have 1 cup of milk, 1 stick of melted butter. I'm gonna add to the milk. And then add 1 can of the cream of cheddar cheese soup, whatever you wanna call this. If you do not like this stuff, it said you can use a can of cream of chicken in its place. I wanna follow the recipe as is, so I'm gonna add the can of the soup and the can of the cheese. I don't necessarily know if you call this soup. Whisk all of this together. Ooh, and make a mess on your counter if you're like me. Pour this all over the top. The TikTok video I saw added no seasoning whatsoever. I don't ride like that. So, some black pepper, garlic powder. Do this with your heart, but if you need a real measurement, somewhere between a half a teaspoon and a full teaspoon. But that was onion powder. A tiny, tiny bit of paprika. I like that when I'm doing stuff with potatoes. So just a little bit like that is what I'm gonna try. Mix all of this up. Top it with the rest of the cheese. Put your lid on. It's specified on high for 3 hours. That's what we're gonna do. 3 hours, just shifted this thing to warm. Let's take a look. Ooh, that's bubbly goodness. Smells really nice. Pull the crock pot closer so you can see when I stir it to see what it does. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna stir that cheese in. I don't care. But it smells good. It looks almost like a potato soup more than, you know, like a real dish. It looks more like soupy. This is what mine looks like. I'm curious if the potatoes are cooked all the way through because they look still a little dark. I'm gonna let you know real quick. The potatoes do still have a little texture. They're not hard, but I think if it went any further, this would turn into potato soup and they'd be too mushy. So I think that's why they said the 3 hours. On to dinner number 3. When I started working out fall dinners, this was the one I was most looking forward to because to me, it like really screams fall. And we have a hurricane coming through, so it's nice and windy and rainy and just feels very cozy in fall. For this dinner, it is an autumn vegetable roasted soup. First thing I did was wash all the produce. I do not know if I will need all of this because the recipe is in metric. So I do have my food scale to figure out exactly how much I need, and then I will tell you with each one what it came out to being, but wash your produce first. Everything is gonna be cut into big roasting pieces. So peel your sweet potatoes, peel your carrots. Once I weigh them out, I will peel them, obviously. But then we're gonna cut everything into large chunks, taking the seeds out of the peppers and taking all the extra little seeds that are inside here if it's really gooey, or cutting off pieces like this that you don't want in your soup because all of this will be pureed together at the end of cooking. Looking for 500 grams of sweet potato. That one is 318, but that's about 100 grams too high with those, and these are both the size I have to work with. So I'm gonna have to cut off a few of the pieces. I peeled them and just took the little bitty ends off here, and it's at 548. I'm calling that good and I'm using them. So these are 2 medium-ish, medium large-ish sweet potatoes. For the pieces of sweet potato, I'm trying to keep them somewhat on the smaller side, but not microscopic either. I just want them good chunks because these and the carrots are gonna take the longest to cook. It also says 500 grams of carrots, and this is 450, and it is 6 pretty decent sized carrots. So maybe 7 carrots. I'm stopping at the 6, but maybe 7. For the carrots, I did stick with the 6. For the smaller parts, I just cut that piece off, and then any of the fatter side of the carrot, I did cut that in half and left pretty decent sized chunks. It does specify 3 peppers, and then you're gonna cut these. I'm only doing 2 because I know roasted red pepper is a very strong flavor and I don't want it to overpower. And then 6 of the tomatoes that they call these salad tomatoes, I guess, but I am gonna take all these down, get the seeds and stuff. but it does specify 3 of these, I'm doing 2, and 6 of these, I am doing 6. I'm not taking all the seeds and stuff out of the middle, I lied on that, but it says thick wedges, so I cut each one in half and then quartered. 2 red peppers, cut them into pretty decent sized chunks like this. It also says 3 onions. I'm not even close to doing that. I'm doing 2. These are really good size though, but I'm only doing 2, and I'm gonna cut them, take all the roots off, and put them into big chunks. This bag of onions is brutal. Oh my goodness. This is what I did. I cut the ends off, then I cut it in half and cut those into thirds. So I'm getting big wedges like this. 5 cloves of garlic with the skin still on. It does specify that. So I'm gonna try and get these off of here. I've got 5. There's this little itty bitty one and then only 1 left. So I'm going to do 6. This is what my tray is looking like. And then it says 4 tablespoons of olive oil evenly distributed. I'm gonna spray it. Then it said a teaspoon of dried sage. I've got ground dried sage. I'm gonna make this work. So I'm gonna go kind of like that. And 2 teaspoons of 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. And it says mix it up with your hands, make sure it's all covered. Over the top, it said to put in the garlic. Fresh rosemary, it wants 5 sprigs of this across the top. Oh. Well, that's pretty. I'm gonna pop this entire tray, 350 degree oven, 25 minutes. Then we're gonna flip it. Okay. 25 minutes. Now it says to flip them around, but I don't want to mix up the garlic and stuff too bad, so I'm just gonna kind of zhuzh them a little bit. Back in for another 20 to 25 minutes. Based on what I'm feeling, I'm gonna go 25. Out. The easiest way to know when they're done is just take a fork and stab them. If it goes in easily, they're done. I need a pot over here. Take all the rosemary sprigs off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then find all of your cloves of garlic and pull those off, because you're gonna have to take the skin off of them and then add them back with the rest of the vegetables. They're really hot, but mine kind of exploded when I tried to pull the skin off, so I'm just gonna semi-burn myself to get them off. What I found is easiest is cutting this little end off and then squeezing it out. All the roasted veggies into a pot. I thought I'd be able to pick up the paper, but it might be too heavy for that. I'm gonna try though. Oh yeah, that actually is gonna work quite nicely. If I didn't do that. Recipe is in metric. So, vegetable broth, and it wants it in milliliters. 800 milliliters. Which ends up being about 3 1/3 cups. But there's 500 and 300. You could put all this in a blender and then put it back in the pot, or use an immersion blender if you have one, and blend all this down. Wow, that's already getting really, really thick, and it's not even done yet. I think it's all pureed, but it is like very, very thick, and there's not much left in this box. I don't know what I would do with it otherwise, so I'm just gonna finish off the box. So 4 cups, and I'm gonna blend a little bit more. That looks very smooth. Now we have to add some cream. 100 milliliters of heavy cream. And all you're doing at this point is just making sure the cream is heated up and the soup is ready. It is thick and beautiful. Look at that. Like the other night, I have the pumpkin bowls. I'm going to use them. Oh, and clean up my mess. I don't like just plain soup for dinner, so we also do have Italian bread that's buttered, or you could dip it in olive oil to go with it, or I'm going to dip it in soup. Jumping in on this real fast, the flavor is amazing. The texture, according to my entire family, is it's too thick, too close to baby food. It does need to be watered down quite a bit, but the flavor is great. On to dinner number 4. This one is going to be a very fast and easy one, because for one, we're using pre-cooked turkey, and I will talk more about that in a minute. But this one is a turkey stuffing roll-up type dinner. The noise you're gonna hear in the background, Connor is cutting up potatoes because we're also gonna make mashed potatoes to go on the side. The kids are not huge fans of stuffing, so I wanna have additional side items for them as well. But this is gonna be almost like a Thanksgiving dinner, just add some cranberry sauce. First thing you're gonna need is any kind of stuffing that you like. I love stovetop and I am doing the turkey flavor, and you're going to make this according to the box directions. While you're doing that, you're also going to make the gravy that it calls for, which it wants 2 packets of any kind of turkey gravy, 2 cups of water, because it's 1 cup for each packet, and a can of cream of chicken soup. I've got 2 pans back here. This one's gonna be for the stuffing, this one's gonna be for the gravy mixture. And I already measured the 2 cups of water to go into this one. My scissors are missing. Life with kids. I have a plastic whisk safe for my pots. I'm gonna whisk this into the water first. Full can of cream of chicken in there at the same time. Don't wait for it to thicken. Whisk that in so there's no lumps and everything's perfectly smooth. As soon as they come to a boil, pour this into there and fluff it up with a little fork, mix it up really good, put a lid on, and take it off the heat for 5 minutes. Then you have to go back and fluff it up with a fork when you're done. I don't like putting metal in my pots and pans. This has been my favorite thing I ever found. I've had it for years. It's from IKEA. I love this. I use this for rice, and anything that says fluff with a fork, this is what I use. While waiting for the gravy to thicken and that 5-minute timer on the stuffing, I'm gonna talk about the turkey. There are several ways to do this that can be more cost effective. Because you are using pre-cooked turkey, the easiest thing to do is go to your deli, ask for a dinner cut of whatever your favorite turkey is, and use that. But I'm gonna show you that's kind of an expensive way to go. I use Publix when it comes to my lunch meat. I love the boar's head, especially the boar's head oven gold. That's what I bought for this dinner, and it cost me $22 for 8 slices of turkey. You can go into Walmart, you can use theirs, you can use store brand, name brand. You can even go into the refrigerated section and buy a pre-cooked turkey breast and slice it yourself. It would be a lot cheaper than what I did, but like I said, this is Publix and it is boar's head, and there's 4 big slices in each one of these bags. This bag was $10.07, this one was $12.59. So, price out your turkey first. I did not. But either way, for this recipe, you're going to need 8 thicker sliced pieces of turkey. Publix Deli said that would be what's called dinner cut. So that's what I've got. I've cut you up over the counter. And I'm gonna make the roll-ups here and put them in the glass pan here. And give it a fluff. No, I don't know which way they had this. I think it was like
I would assume that
this. You're gonna put some stuffing right in the center. You're gonna roll your turkey and then seam side down in the pan to hold it closed. They cut me like 4 big and 4 small because it was 2 different rounds of the turkey in the deli. So these are slightly bigger slices than the other package. There's what they look like right now. Recipe says 1 cup of this poured over these, so about half of your mixture, slightly poured over them. Not covering them all, but just slightly poured over them. Hey, I'm stopping there as he's laughing at me. The other half of this is to serve when they come out of the oven. This way you have a little extra. Brand new thing, a tin foil. 350, 30 minutes. It is currently Thursday evening. That is when the hurricane is off of our coast, and we didn't know a couple days ago at the beginning of the week when I started all of this. So I'm just grateful that tonight's dinner is a fast one and it's only in the oven for 30 minutes and dinner's done, just in case, you know, power gets knocked out or anything. Because last night's with that soup and roasting it and then cooking on the stovetop and everything, if that would have been tonight, we'd probably be having pizza, and then I wouldn't be cooking and just skipping a day for you guys. Got it. Got it.
Yeah, it's cold.
Woo.
A mile away.
Ah. A little bit of mashed potato for Declan. Okay, let me see how easy this scoops out of here. If it breaks open, no. Stay together nice. Deconstructed turkey roll for the kids, the younger 2. And throw some stuffing over here for Miss Gwen. I have like 4 cans of this in the pantry, so I'm gonna go ahead and open it. It's in good date and everything, so we're gonna add some cranberry sauce. Okay, here's what my plate looks like. It feels like Thanksgiving in September, which I'm not mad at. I'm actually really excited about this. This dinner, hands down, Clean Plate Club, It was so good. Yes, it very much gave off Thanksgiving dinner vibes. I even told Connor, if we ever have just the two of us for Thanksgiving, this is what I'm making, because for one, it was easy, two, it was delicious, but we both wish the green beans were green bean casserole. Otherwise, amazing. Conveniently enough, we can treat this like Thanksgiving, because when we were in Sam's Club, see the size of this thing compared to my head? This is their $5 and change pie. It is a pumpkin pie. This will be dessert tonight to go with the turkey dinner. Time for dinner number 5, and yes, it looks very different around here. I just got done doing the Halloween clean and decorate, and that video will be coming up before this one. So either way, you'll already know about this, but now you actually can visibly see it. Tonight's dinner, I had to do one for this video that either had pumpkin or butternut squash. This one has butternut squash. It's like a sausage gnocchi type deal. And I'm gonna use my countertop skillet just because it's a lot easier for me to show you over here than on the black stove in a black pan. It's just a lot easier for you to see what's happening right here. Step 1, crank it to medium and put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in your pan. While this is heating up, you're going to need to make your butternut squash puree. I used this bag out of the frozen department in Walmart, put the entire thing in the microwave, cooked it for 6 minutes, and then into the blender with just a few splashes of reduced sodium chicken broth. You can always add more salt, can't take it any away, and just hit the puree button, and that is where I'm gonna leave that until we move back to this step where now once the olive oil is heated up, we're gonna put sausage in the pan. I'm using the mild Italian sausage that's like this, not in the still sausage or in the casings, because the recipe said remove from the casings, dice it up, and no, I hate doing that. So I'm just using this. Woo! And paper. I will use one of these. I don't want to break it up a whole lot. I just want to keep it in slightly bigger chunks, but I still want it broken apart. Let this brown up on the first side before flipping it around. It's starting to get a little brown, and that's what you want, is you want this to fully brown and be completely cooked before you move on to the next step. I will mention, for the recipe that will be in the description box for this one, I am doubling everything except the amount of meat, because they said they use 12 ounces of sausage. This is a 16 ounce, 1 pound package, and I didn't want to buy 2 and only use like half of one. So I'm just sticking to the pound of sausage, but everything else in the recipe, I'm doubling. That's what you're seeing. Now you need to add the gnocchi, the heavy cream, and the chicken broth. For the gnocchi, you can find it in the dried pasta. This was in the refrigerated section. Publix had, I think, 5 or 6 different options. I'm just gonna go ahead and pour in the gnocchi. 1 cup of the chicken broth, 2 cups of the heavy cream. Put that in there. Get this up to a boil. It says get it up to a boil, then stir it. I'm gonna push it all back under the liquid. It says boil on medium for 5 minutes. Of course, I missed a step. Lid on, then boil for 5 minutes. Turn that down a tiny, tiny bit for a minute. Good old garlic. It wants 3 cloves per recipe. I'm just gonna put a good heaping spoon for my double. Get all that in there. I don't wanna waste any of that. Mix all of it together really well. Still on medium. Get this back up to a boil. All right, now it doesn't specify if we're covering or not. I'm gonna cover it down to medium-low for another 5 minutes. This is the 5-minute mark. It said you can leave it longer, the thicker that you want it, but it will also thicken a little bit more. So that's your judgment call. Salt and pepper to taste. I made a boo-boo, okay? For one, you need sage and you need thyme. It wants fresh. I was like, no, I've got the dried stuff at home. Well, the sage is fine. I'm gonna use that. Said about 1/4 teaspoon dried. I'm doubling, so I'm using about 1/2 teaspoon dried sage. And you can clearly see I have no thyme in the jar, none whatsoever. There is no close equivalent, so I'm literally going in with Italian because it's Italian sausage. I figure, why not? So I'm gonna do that for the same amount that I would have done the thyme. hopefully it's not a mess up. I'm gonna mix this in. If you were using the fresh herbs, you're gonna mix half the fresh herbs in now, and then the other half, you're just gonna put them over the top before you serve. So then you grab it out and your herbs are on top. I think it's mostly for presentation, to be completely honest, but. And then at this point, dinner is served. I'm gonna continue to use my pumpkin bowl. I don't care, I love this thing. And I also brought out a ladle because I don't think of a better way to serve this up. This recipe was absolutely delicious, probably number 2 of the week. My husband, however, does not like the texture of gnocchi, so I already planned to make this again with normal pasta, but absolutely amazing. Try this one. I couldn't end the video without putting something sweet, and my family has been obsessed with those apple cider donuts, and this is the bundt cake version, and that's everything you're gonna need right there. 1 box, you can use spice cake mix, and if you can't find this, you can use yellow cake mix, but you're gonna need to step up the cinnamon or add pumpkin pie spice. Ignore the directions on the back of the box. We're gonna add all different things except the eggs. You are still gonna use 3 eggs. So the next ingredient, 3 eggs, 1 cup of apple cider. Go with the original. This is not the same as apple cider vinegar. No, apple cider. Half a cup of applesauce. The girl did use cinnamon applesauce. I wasn't buying a whole brand new jar, so we're gonna do this, and I'm just gonna step up the cinnamon that the recipe actually calls for, but 1/2 cup. 1 tablespoon of packed brown sugar. If you don't know what that means, don't just scoop it. Pack it in there. That's what it means. Ignore all the brown sugar on my hands. 1 teaspoon vanilla. Ground cinnamon. The recipe says 1/4 teaspoon, and she used the cinnamon applesauce. So I'm gonna go actually a pretty heaping 1/2 teaspoon. So probably about like 2/3 to 3/4 of a teaspoon. But we like cinnamon. You do this to y'all, not us. This already smells amazing, but go ahead, Brie, and get it started. This is for a bundt pan. Spray it really good, or grease and flour it, whatever you wanna do, just make this where it's not gonna stick. Put the whole batter in the pan. 350-degree oven for about 40-45 minutes, then check it. This was 40 minutes, and it's nice and brown around the edges, smells amazing. I put a knife in, came out completely clean. I'm gonna let this cool in the pan for about 10 minutes, then take it out and let it cool the rest of the way completely on the rack. I just flipped the pan. The best way I do that is I take this rack and I lay it across the top of the pan, flip it together while I'm holding it tight, and then let go, and the cake will descend just like that. And I will leave this to cool completely before moving on. Cake is completely cooled to the touch. This is 1/4 cup of butter. It wants this melted, and then brush it on the cake, and while it's like soaking in slightly, that's when it wants you to mix cinnamon and sugar together. And it's 2 to 1 sugar to cinnamon, but you can always change that ratio however you want to do. And then once those are mixed, then put them on the butter. I don't really understand why they said do it that way, but melt this. I lied with the proportion. I did 2 tablespoons of white sugar and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and to me that looks like a good ratio. But I was supposed to mix this once I had already brushed that on the cake, so I'm just gonna give myself like 30 seconds after I do this. All the nooks and crannies are brushed with the butter. I was stupid and did not think about putting something underneath this, so there's melted butter dripped all over here. And now, since it's already a mess, I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle this anyways and make more of a mess on my counter. There's the cake, cinnamon sugared, and my counter thoroughly cinnamon sugared and buttered. But that's okay. Either way, this looks really good. I'm gonna cut it in a second after I wash all this off me. There's the inside, so you can see it. It looks very dense and almost dry, but it is very much not a dry cake at all. Look at that, bounces right back. It is beautiful. The kids said it is not very appley. I haven't had my piece yet, so I'm trying it with the optional glaze, which is just powdered sugar to whatever consistency you like with apple cider. So I'll see if that makes mine taste more appley. With or without the glaze, this is delicious. I don't really think it needs the glaze because this is perfect just the way it is, and a wonderful way to close out the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. All the recipes will be in the description box down below. If you try them, let me know. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.